There are ancient words whispered across centuries, words not meant to be preached, but remembered. They speak not of a Christ to be worshipped on altars of stone, but of a living presence sleeping within every soul, waiting to awaken. This is the mystery of the living Christ within, and the Gospel of Thomas holds the forgotten key. Most people have never truly read the Gospel of Thomas, not with the eyes of the heart. To scholars, it's a strange, cryptic text, buried among the sands of Nag Hammadi in 1945, a lost gospel with no stories of miracles, no crucifixion, no resurrection. But to those with eyes to see, it is something far greater, a manual of inner resurrection, a direct path to discovering the kingdom of God within yourself. This is not the Christ of dogma, nor the Christ of doctrine. This is the Christ of experience, the radiant spark of divine consciousness that each of us carries, yet few ever awaken to. In this video, we'll journey deep into the hidden teachings of the Gospel of Thomas, not as theologians, but as seekers of truth. You'll uncover why this gospel was considered too dangerous for early religious institutions, how its teachings point not to external worship, but to internal revelation, and most importantly, how you can begin to experience the living Christ, right here, right now, through your own consciousness. Because the Gospel of Thomas doesn't ask for belief. It invites you into a direct encounter with the eternal. It is not about following Christ. It's about becoming Christ. By the end of this exploration, you'll see why the words of Thomas are not merely ancient, they are alive. And if you listen with the inner ear, something within you may begin to stir, something ancient, luminous, and profoundly familiar. So, take a breath, forget what you've been told, and prepare to remember what your soul has always known. In the winter of 1945, beneath the burning Egyptian sun, a farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Saman unearthed a sealed clay jar near the cliffs of Nag Hammadi. Inside, wrapped in decaying papyrus, were 13 leather-bound codices, ancient texts lost to time. Among them lay a manuscript that would shake the foundations of Christian history, the Gospel of Thomas. Unlike the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, this one spoke in riddles, proverbs, and paradoxes. There were no miracles, no crucifixion, no resurrection story. Instead, it contained 114 sayings attributed to Jesus, each a cipher, a mirror reflecting something within. To the uninitiated, they might seem fragmented or even nonsensical. But to those versed in the language of spirit, Thomas was not recounting events of the past. It was mapping the inner terrain of enlightenment. This was a gospel of gnosis, not knowledge in the intellectual sense, but direct knowing, the moment when the divine spark within recognizes itself. In the first century, there were many such teachings, mystical schools that taught the Christ was not a single man, but the awakened state of consciousness latent in all humanity. They saw Jesus as the one who embodied this truth completely, a living example of the divine potential in us all. But this message was radical. It threatened the emerging institutions that sought to define, control, and externalize spirituality. A Christ who lives within every being cannot be monopolized, cannot be confined to temples or doctrines. And so, these teachings were declared heresy. The inner gospel went underground, its wisdom preserved in whispers, in symbols, in the hearts of mystics. The Gospel of Thomas became a doorway that only the sincere could pass through. Its sayings are deliberately cryptic because they are not meant to be understood. They are meant to ignite something inside you. Consider saying 3. If those who lead you say to you, See, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known. This is not poetic metaphor. It is a precise spiritual instruction. Thomas teaches that salvation is not something to be granted from above, but remembered from within. It implies that the divine and the human are not separate, but reflections of one another, endlessly mirroring through awareness. This understanding wasn't unique to early Christianity. Across ancient civilizations, from Egypt to India, sages spoke of the inner light, the Atman, the Ka, the spark of the divine. The Gospel of Thomas was a continuation of this perennial wisdom, translated into the language of the Christ consciousness. And yet, through centuries of translation and theological conflict, the living essence of this teaching was buried under dogma. The Christ became a figure to be adored, rather than a state of being to be realized. But the Gospel of Thomas quietly endures, whispering through time. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift the stone, and you will find me there. This is the Christ that lives not in heaven, but in awareness itself. And to experience it, one must look where the world never taught you to look, inward. In the next section, we'll begin to unravel the inner mechanics of this teaching. We'll explore how the Gospel of Thomas guides us to awaken the living Christ, not as an idea, but as an experience of consciousness that can transform the way you see reality itself. There is a moment, a shift, when the Gospel of Thomas stops being words on a page and begins to speak to you directly, not through intellect, but through resonance. It's as though the soul recognizes something ancient and begins to whisper back, I remember. This is the point where study becomes initiation. The Gospel of Thomas does not tell you about God. It activates your awareness of the divine presence already within. Each saying is a riddle designed to dismantle the illusion of separation between the human and the sacred. Saying 1 opens with a challenge and a promise. Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. At first glance, it seems cryptic, almost arrogant. But Thomas is not speaking of physical death. The death he refers to is the sleep of forgetfulness, the state of living without remembrance of your divine origin. To interpret these sayings is not to translate them intellectually, it is to realize them experientially. When one truly sees the meaning behind these words, one awakens to the timeless consciousness that cannot die. This is the beginning of Christ awareness. It is not the worship of a figure outside you. It is the unveiling of the same light that animated the one we call Jesus. Let us pause on saying 3, one of the most profound in the text. The kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. Here, the kingdom is not a distant paradise. It is the field of awareness itself. It is consciousness, pure, unfiltered being. But to perceive it, one must turn the gaze inward, away from the noise of the world, away from the endless search for salvation in external things. This is why the Gospel of Thomas was never meant for the masses. It demands self-awareness, silence, and direct perception. It cannot be explained by priests. It must be experienced by mystics. When you know yourself, as Thomas says, you realize that your very awareness, the part of you that sees, is the divine presence you've been seeking. The living Christ is not a being to appear in the clouds. It is the light behind your eyes, the stillness behind your thoughts. In saying 77, Jesus declares, "I am the light that is over all things. I am the all. The all came forth from me, and the all attained to me. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there." To the ordinary mind, this seems mystical, poetic, even absurd. But to the awakened heart, it's an exact description of reality. The divine is not in all things. It is all things. The Christ consciousness is the substratum of existence itself, appearing as every form, every breath, every particle of light and shadow. Once this is seen, the world is no longer mundane. It becomes radiant. Every sound, every face, every heartbeat becomes a reflection of the same infinite life. This is not philosophy. It is perception, transformed by awakening. Thomas reveals that the path of Christ is not about belief, but about remembrance. To bring forth what is within you is to let the divine emerge through consciousness itself. This process does not happen through striving or effort, but through surrender, through the stillness of inner listening. When the mind grows quiet, something eternal begins to shine through. In essence, Thomas invites you to do what Jesus himself did, to awaken to the truth that I and the Father are one, not as a statement of superiority, but as a realization of unity. The Gospel of Thomas, then, is not merely scripture. It is an initiatory code. Each saying is a mirror reflecting a stage of inner awakening. At first, they seem paradoxical, but slowly they begin to unlock the gates of perception, leading you back to the source from which you came. The living Christ is not a mystery to be solved. It is a presence to be experienced. And as we move into the next part, we'll explore how this presence expresses itself, how the paradoxes of Thomas guide us beyond duality, beyond belief, into the direct knowing of the infinite that breathes through all things. Every sacred teaching hides its wisdom in paradox. Why? Because truth is not found in the logic of the mind. It is discovered in the stillness beyond it. The Gospel of Thomas speaks this secret language fluently. Its sayings twist the intellect into silence, forcing the seeker to look inward for understanding. Consider saying 22, perhaps one of the most mysterious and transformative passages in the entire Gospel. When you make the two one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the above like the below, and when you make the male and female one and the same, then you will enter the kingdom on the surface. This may seem like poetry, but hidden within it lies the formula for spiritual alchemy. To make the two one is to dissolve the illusion of separation, the illusion that light and shadow, heaven and earth, spirit and flesh are opposed. It is to awaken to the truth that everything you perceive, no matter how divided it seems, is made of the same divine essence. This is Christ consciousness, the perception that all opposites are reconciled in the eternal unity of being. For centuries, humanity has sought God in extremes, above or below, sacred or profane, pure or sinful. But Thomas tells us, the moment you separate the divine from the world, you lose both. The living Christ cannot be confined to temples or rituals because it lives in the pulse of reality itself. Every breath is a communion. Every act of awareness is a resurrection. This is why the Christ of Thomas speaks not from a pulpit, but from within your own being. It is the whisper of presence that says, "You and I are not two." Now, notice saying 113, where the disciples ask Jesus, "When will the kingdom come?" He replies, "It will not come by waiting for it. It will not be said, 'Look, here it is,' or 'Look, there it is.' Rather, The kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and people do not see it. The blindness Thomas speaks of is not physical, it is perceptual. We look for divine revelation in some distant future, while the eternal kingdom has always been right here, hidden in plain sight. It is not waiting to arrive, it is waiting to be recognized. This moment, this very awareness, watching these words, is already the kingdom. The Christ is not a person who will appear. It is a state of consciousness awakening within humanity. To see the kingdom is to perceive through the eyes of the living Christ within you. And once this perception dawns, even ordinary things, light on a wall, the sound of wind, the face of a stranger, begin to shimmer with quiet holiness. Another profound saying 70, warns, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This is not a threat. It is a mystical truth about consciousness. There is a divine fire within every soul, a living potential that longs to express itself. If we repress it, if we live only for the world's illusions, it consumes us as restlessness, confusion, and despair. But if we bring it forth, if we allow awareness to awaken, it transforms everything we touch. This is the alchemy of the inner Christ, turning the lead of unconscious living into the gold of awakened being. Throughout the Gospel of Thomas, you'll find a recurring theme: self-knowledge as divine revelation. In saying 5, Jesus declares, "Know what is before your face, and what is hidden from you will be revealed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be made manifest." To know what is before your face is to become deeply present, to look without distraction, to listen without expectation. In that still attention, the hidden becomes visible. The divine reveals itself, not as something added, but as what was always there. The Christ within is not something you must find or attain. It is what remains when all seeking ends. It is the awareness that simply is. The Gospel of Thomas is a mirror. Each saying is a key that opens an inner door, but only for the one who dares to turn it. It points to a transformation so intimate and so total that language can only circle around it. The living Christ is not an idea to understand. It is a presence to surrender into. It is what remains when you stop chasing the divine and realize you have never been apart from it. And yet Thomas does not stop at philosophy. It whispers an invitation to practice, to experience, to embody the Christ consciousness in daily life. In the next section, we will step into that living practice. You'll learn how to cultivate direct awareness of the Christ within, not through belief or ritual, but through the alchemy of attention, silence, and remembrance. Because this teaching is not meant to be studied. It is meant to be lived. It's one thing to understand the Gospel of Thomas. It's another to live it, to feel the living Christ rising within your own awareness, like dawn, breaking over an ancient landscape. The words of Thomas are not mere philosophy. They are instructions for transformation, quiet codes meant to awaken the divine remembrance that you are the kingdom you seek. But how does one cross the threshold from knowing about the Christ to becoming the Christ? Let us walk that path, step by step. 1. The practice of inner silence. Listening to the still voice. In saying 17, Jesus declares, "I shall give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, and what has not arisen in the human heart." The gift he speaks of is awareness itself, the silent presence behind all perception. To receive it, one must become still enough to hear it. Begin each day by entering silence. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and let the breath become soft. Do not try to silence the mind. Simply watch. As thoughts rise, recognize them as passing clouds. Behind them, something unmoving watches. That still watcher, pure awareness, is the seed of the living Christ. At first, it may feel faint, subtle, like a whisper behind the noise. But as you return to it daily, it grows brighter, more alive, until it begins to move through you, to speak through your actions, your words, your very presence. This is how the Christ awakens, not through effort, but through recognition. 2. The mirror of daily life, seeing the kingdom in all things. Thomas teaches that the kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and people do not see it. To see it, you must practice sacred perception. Throughout your day, pause often and look, not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of wonder. See the divine in the mundane, the gleam of light on a glass, the rhythm of footsteps, the breath of wind through trees. Each is a reminder that the same presence looking out through your eyes is looking back through everything you perceive. Try this. As you interact with others, silently remember, the same light that lives in me lives in them. This simple remembrance dissolves separation, softens conflict, and begins to open your heart to the unified field Thomas spoke of, the kingdom both within and without. 3. The art of self-knowledge, returning to the inner kingdom. Thomas said, "When you know yourselves, then you will be known." This knowing is not psychological, it is ontological. It is the realization that what you truly are is not your body, not your name, not your history, but the awareness in which all these appear. Try asking yourself, gently and persistently, who is aware of this thought? Who hears this sound? Who am I before the story of me? Don't seek an answer. The question itself turns the light of consciousness inward, toward the source. In that looking, the false self begins to dissolve, and what remains is the luminous stillness, the living Christ, recognizing itself. 4. The path of integration, living as the light. Once awareness of the Christ within begins to bloom, the true work begins, embodiment. It is not enough to experience transcendence in meditation. You must walk as the presence in the world. When you speak, let your words carry peace. When you act, let your actions reveal love. When you face darkness, do not resist, shine through it. To bring forth what is within you means to let the divine intelligence guide your daily life, until every decision, every gesture becomes an act of remembrance. You are no longer a seeker, you are the sought. This is the transformation Thomas points to, from a follower of Christ to the living expression of Christ consciousness itself. 5. The hidden sacrament, remembering in every moment. In ancient mystical Christianity, the greatest sacrament was not baptism by water or communion by bread. It was remembrance, the act of recalling, moment by moment, that you and the Father are one. This remembrance is not an affirmation or a belief. It is a state of being. When you remember, the illusion of distance fades. When you forget, the world feels heavy, separate, divided. So, make remembrance your practice. While walking, working, breathing, quietly repeat within, I am the light that is over all things. I am the all, and the all is in me. Not as arrogance, but as truth. The truth that the same divine life animating the universe is breathing through you. If practiced sincerely, these teachings begin to alter your perception of reality itself. You will start to feel what the mystics felt, a living current of peace that underlies all things. Your sense of identity expands beyond body and mind, beyond time and fear. And in that expansion, the words of Thomas no longer sound ancient. They become your own inner voice speaking back to you. This is the living Christ. Not a concept, not a creed, but a direct, embodied awareness of the infinite within the finite. It is the light that sees through your eyes, loves through your heart, and knows through your silence. In the final section, we'll bring all of this together, exploring how this inner awakening transforms not only the self, but the world around you, and how the Gospel of Thomas remains a living map to humanity's return to divine remembrance. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when the words fall silent, when scripture, ritual, and philosophy all dissolve into a single living presence. That moment is not the end of the path. It is the path realized. The Gospel of Thomas points us precisely to that threshold, the moment when the seeker becomes what they seek. When Jesus says, "I am the light that is over all things," he is not speaking as a man apart from us. He is voicing the eternal consciousness speaking through us all. The same divine awareness that breathed through the man of Nazareth breathes through you now, as these words pass through your mind. The only difference is remembrance. The Gospel of Thomas is not a text to be believed. It is a mirror to be entered. Each saying is a doorway that opens inward, toward the radiant stillness at your core. And when that door opens, even slightly, you begin to feel it, the quiet pulse of eternity behind every heartbeat, the subtle light behind every thought, the infinite looking out through your eyes. This is the living Christ within you, unborn, undying, unbroken. It is the kingdom Thomas spoke of, spread across the earth, hidden in plain sight, awaiting only your recognition. You see, the Christ of Thomas does not belong to any religion, any temple, any creed. It belongs to life itself, to the breath moving through you right now, to the silence beneath all sound, to the boundless awareness that was never born and will never die. The early mystics called this the second birth, not of flesh, but of spirit. It is the resurrection that happens while you are still alive, the moment you awaken from the dream of separation and realize that you have never been anything but divine. And from that awakening, compassion arises naturally. The heart opens. You begin to see through the eyes of the living Christ, seeing no strangers, no enemies, no others, only the one life wearing 1,000 faces. If the words of the Gospel of Thomas resonate within you, do not let them remain as ideas. Let them become living experience. Practice silence. Look within. See the sacred in the ordinary. And remember, over and over, that the Christ you seek is the consciousness reading these words right now. Because in truth, there is nothing to attain. You were never separate. You only needed to remember. So, as you leave this exploration, let this final whisper echo in your heart. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are the children of the living Father. The living Christ has never left this world. It waits patiently in every human heart, a hidden flame, ready to awaken, and perhaps in this very moment, it already has. If this journey stirred something within you, some quiet remembering of who you truly are, let it guide you deeper. Share this message, reflect upon it, and above all, live it. Because the greatest testimony to the Gospel of Thomas is not words, but the radiance of a soul who has remembered the living Christ within.